scale of Nabucco will be exciting. That's very big. It's something that we haven't seen much here. It's a show painted on drops, as was done for hundreds of years in opera, and really painted on drops more beautifully in ways than I had ever hoped. In the early years of opera, the painted drops allowed people to be transported to a different location. Now it's much more about the emotional landscape than it is about the illusory landscape. So it's a different approach to the work entirely from the era when Nabucco was written on up to the modern day.
The drops I end up delivering to the painters that are going to do it as scale renderings that are about 1:48, so they have to blow everything up 48 times. They basically put a grid over the top of the rendering, and then they lay the same grid out on the floor of the white canvas that they're going to paint on, and 1-inch square becomes a 4-inch square. And they first start out by using a charcoal outline drawing of all the major shapes, and then they start laying in color and paint and detail on top of that. And then I come in about halfway through that process then to discuss the next level going forward. How do we add more detail? Scene painting is an interesting art because it really is trompe-l'oeil, tricking the eye and making the space seem deeper than it is and wider than it is. The temple, for example, that we see in the first scene, looks like it's about 100 feet deep, but it's actually only probably about 30 feet deep, and you sort of do this by adding in extra light and shadow into the drop.
We have 4 shops working on Nabucco. We have Michael Hagen Studios in upstate New York. Michael Hagen is painting most of the drops. A few miles away from them, we have Adirondack Studios. Adirondack's doing the floor, which has a very large and complex tile pattern on it, and also painting the sky drops. Then Minnesota Opera, who's one of our co-producers, has their own shop, and so they're building the La Scala proscenium wall unit and some of the other hard pieces. And the last bit is being painted by a fellow named Paolino Librelato in Treviso, Italy, and these are the very specialty drops that really need the look and style of the Italian paint that's done with dry pigment and binder instead of mixing wet paint. It's like finding a person who can connect you right back to the world of the 1840s in a little shop in Treviso, Italy. And it's been wonderful to see that, and the quality of the drops is amazing.
One thing that Paolino Librelato did in Italy was really suggest some ways to make the three-dimensionality of some of the columns. The way I had it with the light and shadow was a bit flattening, and then he sort of suggested some techniques that we could do that really make them more three-dimensional. He's a master. All he does is paint beautiful perspective scenery all day long, so of course I want to tap into his knowledge about how to make the tricks work.
My hope is that since we haven't done a lot of painted drop shows, I'm hoping that the audience will fully appreciate the amazing quality of drops that we're actually being able to paint. I've been in opera 23 years, and I didn't know that people could even paint that way anymore. Nabucco is visually a very big show, and I think that that's something that the audience here enjoys, and I think that they'll get a kick out of seeing us do something that's really, new and big and splashy again.